again, and welcome to This Week in Agriculture, a presentation of the Communications Unit, Ministry of Agriculture. I'm your producer and host, Christopher Holder. On this week's presentation, we bring you highlights of Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa's outreach to Region 2, where a number of machinery and infrastructure, planting material, all commissioned and handed over to farmers as his ministry seeks to advance the business of agriculture in all of its forms across the length and the breadth of this nation. Minister Zulfikar, of course, has outlined his vision for agriculture in Guyana, a vision that was laid by His Excellency President Dr. Irfaan Ali, and it's a blueprint that is being followed at all levels. Guyana is the shining light for the region as the region itself strives to reduce its food import bill by 25% by the end of the year 2025. Guyana is being depended upon to help all CARICOM brothers and sisters to realize this goal. We will be back after these messages.
Over the last 10 years, seed treatment has been proven to be very effective in protecting rice plants from damage by early season pests such as water weevils, leaf miners, and caterpillars. This protection can last for up to 30 days. In so doing, it allows for better establishment of the rice plants and later no bare spots in the field. Seed treatment also negates the need for using harmful pesticides during the first 30 days of the crop and therefore allows the buildup of beneficial insects such as the ladybird beetle, damselflies, dragonflies, and spiders, which will later prove useful against paddy bugs at every stage of their life cycle. Seed treatment involves the application of fipronil at 20% soluble concentrate in a spray can to germinated seed. The mix is 1 liter of fipronil to 2.5 gallons of water to treat 10 120-pound bags of paddy. This can be done manually as seen here. The seed is spread on a level surface and the chemical applied using a spray can. It is then turned and sprayed a few times until the farmer is satisfied that he has achieved complete wetting of his seed paddy. Treated seed paddy is then covered and allowed to be incubated or pressed for the normal 36 to 48 hours. Then it is ready for sowing. It should be noted that in treating the seed, farmers applying the pesticide should wear the appropriate protective gear as seen here to protect against the harmful effects of the chemical on the skin or if inhaled.
From 2010, since I started my seed treatment, that's when I started and I've continued. I've never stopped because I've seen the benefit of seed treatment. And I've seen increased yield, I've seen production better because it actually gives you 35 to 40 days that you don't have to go back into the field and do any kind of a pesticide control because that actually helps you. So farmers, I'm advising you and I'm giving you that advice because I've been doing this since 2010 and I'd like to see farmers benefit also from these 6 points.
Seed treatment is a critical step in the realization of higher yield. If you have not yet adopted this practice, try it this crop. A message from the GRDB, Ministry of Agriculture. In light of recent flooding and the lodging of floodwaters in some communities, the Ministry of Agriculture through the GLDA is warning of the dangers lurking in stagnant floodwaters. Leptospirosis is caused by bacteria that results in severe damage to the liver, kidneys, and other organs of both animals and humans. One risk factor includes walking or playing in floodwaters, especially floodwaters that have become stagnant. Leptospirosis is transmitted through the urine of infected rodents, livestock, and pets. The Leptospira bacteria can enter the body of animals and humans through drinking, through cuts in the skin, or through mucous membranes in the eyes, nose, and mouth. Symptoms of leptospirosis in both animals and humans include fever, jaundice, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain, loss of appetite, weakness, stiffness, and severe muscle pain. In light of the current rainy season and widespread flooding, livestock and pet owners are advised to implement good agricultural practices and, where possible, have your animals vaccinated against this disease immediately. A message from the Guyana Livestock Development Authority, Ministry of Agriculture. The Ministry of Agriculture is advising farmers and others in possession of leases for state lands that under the laws governing leasing of state lands, no person who leases land from government is allowed to sublet those lands to a third party unless written permission is sought and given to the leasee for this to take place. Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa has noted that this is happening in the MMA scheme, with overseas-based holders of land leases charging farmers who rent from them as much as $30,000 an acre, and by extension driving up the cost of production. The Ministry of Agriculture is therefore requesting all farmers interested in accessing lands to do so through the MMA ADA and pay just $3,600 per acre for both land rental and DNI rates. In the meantime, the board of the MMA ADA is now doing an audit of lands leased to overseas-based persons with a view to reassigning those lands if the owners are found to be exploiting small farmers of Region 5. Through the 2023 budget allocations to the MMA, it is anticipated that approximately 20,000 acres of lands will become available to farmers by the second half of this year. A message from the Ministry of Agriculture. Agriculture development in Region 2, Pomeroon, Supernam, received a significant boost to their agricultural potential with the commissioning this past week of several critical pieces of machinery and equipment to advance the maintenance and upgrade of drainage and irrigation infrastructure in the region. Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa and team from his ministry traveled to the region for a number of engagements, part of a national outreach campaign that seeks to engage with the nation's farmers at all levels, in order to hear firsthand the challenges they face and to offer solutions. First on the agenda of the Region 2 outreach was the commissioning of a brand new $10 million amphibious excavator in Tapakuma village. In remarks at the commissioning, Minister Mustafa noted that the region now has 20 pieces of equipment that ensures the maintenance of improved drainage and irrigation for farmers. He noted that the commissioning of the piece of machinery is another promise kept by the PPP civic government.
I was making this point last week when we were in Region 1, that when we went to the elections in 2019 during the campaign in 2020, we made a number of commitments and promises that as long as you elect the PPP civic in government, we will ensure that we deliver on those commitments and promises to you, the people. And here we are today to fulfill one of the promises that we have committed. And I want to say that we made those commitments with the intention that we will deliver for those commitments in 5 years, from 2020 to 2025. And I'm happy to say that less than 4 years, we have delivered on all the commitment. Over 95% of the commitment we have made to the people of this country. And that is a monumental achievement for us, because we know that parties that were in government before made commitment, said they will deliver, and they never deliver anything to our people. What they deliver? They deliver a number of measures that were harsh, measures that put a lot of problem in society, caused a lot of problem in society, and measures that was against the people of our country. And I was just speaking to the regional engineer, and in 2015, the last year of the PPP civic government, before we came out of office, this region had 12 pieces of equipment. 12 pieces of equipment. Today, it has 20 pieces. So less than 4 years, we have seen it has increased to 20 pieces. But a period from 2015 to 2020, when we left government, or when we came out of government in 2015, there was not one piece of equipment that was sent to this region. We left 15 and we left 12. We went back and reached 12, and we add to that today, and we made that now 20. 20 pieces of equipment you have in Region 2. Government equipment that will help farmers. And that is why we are now seeing in Essequibo Region 2, the last crop, although we had the El Nino condition, and we had problem to get irrigation water, we were still able to cultivate in this region approximately 32,000 acres of rice. And that's a great achievement for you in Region 2.
Minister Mustafa urged that the piece of machinery be utilized sensibly to advance drainage and irrigation in the region, indicating that a management committee will be established to oversee the operations of the new amphibious excavator. Across at the Rice Producers Association Bond in Anna Regina, some 45 pieces of equipment, inclusive of tractor-driven pumps, water pumps, and mist blowers, valued approximately $7 million, were distributed to farmers there. Speaking to those in attendance at the handing over ceremony, Minister Mustafa said farmers must adapt to new farming practices in utilizing technology in the conduct of the business of agriculture.
Because if we want new results, we can't continue to do things the same old way. We have to change it, and we have to be more innovative. And that is why, when you look at the traditional sector, I was making that point just now at the place we went. We are increasing production in the traditional areas, but at the same time, we are diversifying. We are going to new sectors. We are going to new forms of production. Why we are doing this? As a country, we are producing 60% of the food that we are consuming. But we want to reduce that. We want to reduce that, and we want to produce more. So the dependency of imported food must reduce. And the investment that we are making, we are ensuring that we reduce that import bill. Because if you look around the Caribbean today, the entire CARICOM, they have decided, the entire heads of government in CARICOM, have decided that we have to reduce the food import bill by 25% by 2025. And for us to be successful, for the Caribbean to be successful, Guyana has to be successful. And that is why we are making all these investments. Not only these small implements that we are giving out, but we are making massive investments in the agriculture sector.
Pointing out that the agriculture inputs being provided by government is intended to help them along this path to the practice of climate-smart agriculture.
So we want to ensure we lead. We want to ensure we be a food production hub. That is why we have started the construction of a food hub. We have started the construction of a food hub on the Linden Food Tech Highway at Yarrow. That food hub, we already signed an MOU with the state of Rhode Island, and that food hub will be used to, when we produce food in Guyana, to also distribute food across the Caribbean. In another few months, a ferry service will commence from Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, and Barbados, the fourth phase. And then the route will increase as the time goes on. But these are new opportunities that will come our way. And we have to embrace these opportunities. That is why, from the government of Guyana Initial Agriculture standpoint, we are working with every single section of society, every single section in the agriculture sector. And while, as I said, we are expanding on the traditional areas, we are now going to new areas. We are now producing corn and soya. We want to be, by next year, self-sufficient in producing all our needs. Every year we are importing approximately $50 million in corn and soy for livestock feed. Since by the end of this year, we will have approximately 12,000 acres of corn soil being cultivated in the Takama Savannah. We already built silos there. We'll increase the capacity this year to 80,000 tons. We built hundreds of miles of road in the Takama Savannah. As I'm speaking now, we are building a wharf so that ships can go directly here and in the Maurice River, in the Takama Savannah. So what I'm saying these things for that will reduce a large input bill for us. If we can produce all our needs by next year, we'll save $50 million US. That money can go into other sectors. While we are working and doing that and producing corn and soya, we are now working to produce all the black eyed peas and red beans for our needs and the Caribbean needs, right in that savannah, the Kimbia area. We have 2 investors who have invested in that area. We are now shortly, the road will be awarded, and they, by another few months, we'll have large-scale cultivation of red beans and black eyed peas coming out from that area.
The Agriculture Minister explained that the government is equipping farmers with the knowledge and tools today with the aim of preparing the nation's farmers to be able to meet the demands for produce that will soon be multiplied with the coming on-stream of a regional ferry service, one that will allow Guyana's produce, farmers' produce by extension, to reach markets throughout the region. Across the Kapoi village on the Essequibo coast, Minister Mustafa commissioned brand new sloops valued at approximately $260 million. The new structure will assist with D&I efforts benefiting more than 60 farmers and some 1,000 acres of farm and residential lands. Areas such as Kapoi, Little Alliance, Westfield, Mocha, Daggerad, and the immediate frontlands at Queenstown will benefit from this intervention.
Now, this here today is the first tranche, or the first phase we are rolling out. This afternoon we'll be distributing 3,000 of those high-yielding nuts to about approximately 120 farmers who will receive 25 of those nuts so that they can start the process of planting those nuts. Now, what the difference with these nuts from our nuts? First of all, as I said, this is a high-yielding nut that it will give us approximately 240 coconuts per tree every year. Now we are producing approximately 160 coconuts per tree. So you'll see immediately when these nuts start to produce, we'll produce approximately 80 more nuts. Now the water content in the nuts, what we have now is between 300 and 350 milliliters of water that we are producing now with the nuts that we are producing. This high-yielding nut that we brought and will be distributing to farmers will be producing between 700 and 750 milliliters of water. Right? So these are the kind of things that we are talking about. Also, these nuts, what we'll be distributing here this afternoon, are capable of producing water firstly. So you can get water if you want to be a coconut water vendor and you want to be a coconut water producer. This coconut will give you water. The same very coconut can give you oil. The same very coconut, if you want to produce oil and you want to produce the coconut for oil, this coconut will give you oil. And the same very coconuts that we are distributing here this afternoon can also give you copper. So you could produce coconut water, you could produce oil, or you could produce copper. So that's the capability of these nuts. So why we are doing this?
If you look, this is not only in the coconut sector. We want to revitalize the coconut industry in Guyana. Coconut, the coconut now around the world has become very lucrative. All over the world, places like Indonesia and Vietnam and other countries are producing coconut in large quantities. We in Guyana, we have the potential of producing coconuts for the entire Caribbean. Because you go into the supermarkets in the Caribbean, and you look, sometimes you find coconut water coming from Vietnam, coming from Thailand, and coming from Eastern Asia. We have the potential of satisfying those markets right here from Guyana. That is why when I became Minister of Agriculture, we have crafted a plan. We have crafted a 5-year plan. And this crop, coconut, was one of the crops that we said we want to revitalize, we want to improve, and we'll work with farmers across our country to increase coconut production. So whilst I'm speaking here, we have imported to date over 60,000 nuts from Brazil. And we have been working with farmers across this country to increase production.
Farmers at Aurora, members of a farmers group on the Essequibo Coast, have received a tractor with implements in fulfillment of a promise made to them by His Excellency President Dr. Irfaan Ali. The tractor and implements were handed over to the farmers group this past week during Minister Mustafa's outreach to that region. Members of the group have expressed their gratitude to the President and to the Ministry of Agriculture for the continuing support in their efforts at expanding their farms and range of crops cultivated. Later in the day, farmers from the Pomeroon received 3,000 Brazilian green dwarf coconut seedlings from the Ministry of Agriculture as part of government's continuing efforts to revitalize the local coconut industry. Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa, in handing over the seedlings, said the distribution of the high-yielding nuts was phase 1 of the initiative, as some 7,000 seed nuts are expected to be distributed to farmers from Lower and Upper Pomeroon. The distribution of the seed nuts come less than 6 months after the minister visited the area and announced plans to improve the quality and quantity of coconuts provided in the Pomeroon.
As I'm speaking here now, we have another 13,000 coconuts that recently came from Brazil. Because we are looking around the country, as I said, Pomeroon is a very critical area for us. Pomeroon is a very area that we plan to not only revitalize but increase the production of coconut. But that is only just one area. What we have been doing across the country, if you go to region, different parts of the country, instead of depending from the Hope Coconut Estate or the Nari to get coconut plant, you have now coconut nurseries in almost all the region in this country. So you can go and get your coconut right in the region. So these coconuts that we are importing are high-yielding coconut, and we are at presently the technical officers from Nari and Hope Coconut Estate are also building nurseries with these coconut. Very shortly, we will be importing another 40,000 with the cooperation of ICA, another 40,000 coconut high-yielding variety from Mexico. So you could see the effort that we are putting in coconut production, because coconut, we recognize, coconut has the potential of bringing in large revenue. And that is why we are now concentrating coconut to be one of our main crops. When you look at rice production, rice is bringing in the largest revenue in our country. When you look at the other crops, they are bringing in large revenue. When you look at coconut, I think this is either the second or the third largest revenue earner for us. Imagine that. If we would have looked, if we could have looked at coconut 20 years ago, what would have been the production of Guyana's coconut industry? Today we are a member of the international coconut community, and they recognize us. They recognize the potential. That is why this is only part, or this is only one area the government is making the investment.
According to Minister Mustafa, coconut production in Guyana has increased by 6,000 acres over the last 4 years, more than what was anticipated in the early stages of the coconut industry revitalization effort. Minister Mustafa stressed that the idea is to ramp up production of the high-value, super productive Brazilian dwarf variety across the country, and to this end, nurseries have been established across the country with emphasis now on making the Brazilian variety easily accessible to farmers wherever they are in the country. He said that another 40,000 nuts are expected to arrive in the country shortly. The agriculture minister told those in the gathering that it is government's intention to ensure that coconut production in the Pomeroon is expanded significantly.
We already built a pontoon with excavator for the Pomeroon. The last time we had a delegation met with the president and myself at State House, they said that they need a smaller pontoon. So now we are building a second pontoon with excavator, and we are building it to suit the needs of the farmers. So we'll have a second pontoon and excavator to work in the Pomeroon. We have done thousands of rods of block drainage in the Pomeroon since 2020. This shows our commitment because we recognize the potential of this Pomeroon. We recognize it's an important area for us to invest so that we can increase production. And the Pomeroon is not an area where we can produce one crop. It can produce different crops. That is why when you look at the investment, it's tremendous. The Pomeroon alone, when you look at the investment, is tremendous. With the, as I said, I just spoke about the block drainage. I said about the pontoon and excavator. I said what we have been doing, we'll be clearing lands for farmers. Shortly, we'll be constructing another wharf up the river for some farmers there. The commitment I made, and the president reiterated that when we met with them at State House. And NDIA now, they are working on the design for that wharf, farmers' wharf. We are looking now, and you know what we have started. You all complain that the draft in this river is very slow. We have started on the mouth there to do the dredging of the Pomeroon River. And that cost is about approximately $500 million. Ongoing work going on there. We are providing planting material, and I want to make this very clear here, a public announcement that all the planting material will be provided free of cost by the National Agriculture Research and Extension Institute. And the CEO is right here. Where is Jack Narain? He's at the back there. So he will ensure he pass that on to his officer at the nursery. Those are commitments we are making because we recognize the importance of this sector. We have to produce food, and we have to move away from planting 1 and 2 plants. We have to plant plants in hundreds of acres. We have to do large-scale production.
While at Pomeroon, Minister Mustafa handed over 3 coconut shredders, which will be used to minimize wastage and the dumping of coconut shells in the Pomeroon River.
That's all the time we have on this week's edition of This Week in Agriculture, a presentation of the Communications Unit, Ministry of Agriculture. I'm your producer and host, Christopher Holder. Until next time then, be good to yourselves and to each other.